When I was little, I always believed that family meant a place of unconditional love. But that day, that cursed day, I learned it was nothing but a lie. My name is Selene Hartley. I was given another name at birth, wrapped in a different identity, but that identity was never mine. And when I realized that truth, I had no idea I was stepping into the greatest battle of my life. I'm 29 years old, a graphic designer. I know how colors, lines, and visuals can transform people, but sadly, no design, no message was ever enough for my own family. No matter how much I explained, how open I was, they refused to see me. That day, they invited me to their house. My dad, without the slightest hesitation in his voice, said, "We want to talk to you with your mother." A part of me felt hopeful. Maybe something had changed, I thought. Maybe, just maybe they'd call me by my real name. Maybe they'd say, "Our daughter." When I arrived, my mother was standing in the kitchen. Without even looking me in the eye, she told me to sit down. There was no love in her eyes, only shame. My father placed his hands on the table and stared at me sternly. Then he said, "This is a disgrace. What will the neighbors say? The people at church? We didn't raise you like this." Something inside my heart broke in that moment. All the tears I had held back for years. I wanted to leave the room, but my mother wasn't done. "You're no longer our child. You'd be wise to forget this home, this name, this family." I felt the blood drain from my body. They thought giving birth to me meant they knew me. But the truth was, they never even tried to. I thought everything died that day. But that was the day I was born. Truly born. And the pain of that birth taught me one thing. Those who tried to bury me were actually trying to press me down. But what they didn't know was this. I was a seed. And now I'm going to grow. The cold of the night I was kicked out of my home wasn't harsher than the emptiness inside me. I had a single coat, a tablet in my bag, and one spare pair of underwear. That was it. Selene Hartley now had no one. But that no one status would give me a whole new meaning. I spent my first night at the bus terminal. People came and went. No one looked at anyone. It was like I was invisible. Maybe being invisible wasn't such a bad thing, because when no one sees you, no one can judge you. The next morning, I woke up with soot on my face and a knot in my chest. But also, for the first time, I was free. No one could tell me what to wear, how to act, or which name to live by. I woke up as Selene for the very first time, and that was worth everything, the following days and nights. Sleeping on park benches, waiting outside charity offices, chasing job listings wherever I could find free Wi-Fi. But what drained me the most wasn't the hunger or cold. It was the way people looked at me whenever I wore a pair of women's heels. Whenever I put on a bit of lipstick. All eyes were on me. But for the first time, I didn't feel ashamed because I wasn't the one avoiding eye contact anymore. They should have been the ones looking away. Sometime during that period, I stumbled upon a local LGBTQ+ support center. There was a sign at the entrance that read, "You don't have to explain who you are, but if you want to, we'll listen." The moment I stepped inside, I broke down. Uncontrollably. A volunteer woman took my hand and gently asked, "What's your name?" I went silent, closed my eyes, and then opened them, and for the first time, said it with certainty, "Selene." My name is Selene. Thanks to that center, I was placed in a temporary shelter. I shared a room with 3 other trans women. Each of their stories was as broken as mine. But we shared something powerful, our refusal to give up. For me, those streets were first a place of rejection, then rebirth. I went hungry for days, but I was full in my identity. I froze at night, but I was warm within myself. While most people abandoned their children in God's name, I clung to myself in the darkness of the street. And that's when I realized darkness makes the stars shine brighter. During the few weeks I spent in the shelter, my only hope for survival was the tablet I carried with me. Its screen was cracked, The battery barely lasted 30 minutes, but for me, it was a doorway, a lifeline to the world. I created a Behance profile and wrote my name proudly, Selene Hartley. I sent my very first design pitch to someone I didn't even know. Hi, I can create your logo for free. Just let me add it to my portfolio under my name. The reply came. Short, cold, but it was a yes. I want it by tomorrow morning. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the only outlet in the shelter's lobby, battling to keep the tablet from overheating and shutting down. I designed, erased, started over. Because this wasn't just a logo. This was the first real step I was taking toward life. By morning, I sent the file. Hours passed. No response. My chest tightened. Maybe they didn't like it. Maybe they found out who I was and backed out. Then another message. Looks good. Send the invoice. I froze. An invoice? It was the first time someone ever said, "Let me pay you for your work." And for the first time, I said to myself, "You earned this." But that first payment was also my first bullet. That same day, a woman at the shelter overheard me talking about the design gig. At first, she seemed supportive, even helpful, but later, she sneakily added me to a private Discord group linked to the client. That's when I saw it. The conversations had started. Wait, are we working with a trans person? Her look could hurt our brand. If social media finds out, we're screwed. The client sent me just one final message. I'm sorry, but the project is canceled. I wasn't paid. My name was erased, and all that was left was a silent kind of hatred. That night, my eyes filled with tears, but I didn't cry. Instead, I made a promise to myself. This was just the first bullet, Selene, but you won't break this time. You'll become the bullet. And I started transforming. I picked up more freelance jobs, used anonymous accounts, fake handles. Sometimes I just used my first name. But in every project, I left a trace. A little S, a subtle H. Selene was no longer just surviving. She was becoming a ghost in the system. And that ghost was waiting for the right moment to scream her name. For 2 months, I lived invisible. Sometimes I was a graphic. Other times, an illustration. Often, just a font. I hid my identity, but never my talent. With every new job, my courage grew stronger. Eventually, I launched my own website, Hartley Visuals. Identity is power. I was earning by hiding, but the success started to feel hollow. And then one day, a new project landed in my inbox. A mid-sized church organization launching a digital awareness campaign. The irony wasn't lost on me. I read the brief. I was to meet the project lead over Zoom. I joined the call, and my heart nearly exploded. It was my father. No, he didn't recognize me. I wasn't that person anymore. My face had changed, my voice had evolved, but my eyes. The moment they trembled, the child inside me collapsed to the floor. "Thank you for joining us, Miss Selene," he said. Even without realizing, he called me by the right name. For the first time in my life, I heard my father say, Selene. And in that instant, the child within me stood up, as a woman. I kept my composure. I presented the project, professional, detached, but every word held a quiet accusation. And every design whispered a message. The eyes that refused to see me are now staring at my work. They approved the project. They sent the payment. But I wasn't done yet. At the bottom of the website, I added a short bio. Selene Hartley is a trans artist. She works to make the unseen visible. The next day, the organization removed the design from their site. I received an email. This level of personal disclosure is not appropriate for public content. That night, I changed the header of my website to read, Identity is power, and power doesn't apologize. I don't know if my father will ever apologize, but I do know this. He will now speak on platforms designed by me. He will stand before walls crafted by my hands, and those walls were built from the silent screams of a little girl he refused to see. It had been exactly 3 months since I left the shelter. I had found myself a tiny studio apartment, a single bed, a second-hand desk, and a piece of fabric pinned up where a curtain should be. But it was mine, built by me, earned by me. With my identity, with my effort. One morning, just as I was making coffee, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something in my gut stirred. I picked up. Selene? It's Mia. You might remember me. From high school. I froze. My coffee mug nearly slipped from my hand. Mia. The girl who laughed the loudest at me in high school, who mimicked my exaggerated walk, who laughed behind my back when I cried in the girls' bathroom, and now she was calling. With a soft voice. With sweet words. I saw your work on social media. Really impressive stuff. Our company's launching a new brand and we need a designer. You were the first person who came to mind. Something inside me trembled. Maybe this was the moment I'd been waiting for all these years. Not an apology, but an acknowledgement. I didn't reject her. I listened to the offer. The project was big, a national-level campaign. And this time, my name would be front and center. I got to work. Color palettes, fonts, mock-ups, mood boards. I spent nights crafting every detail. And then I presented it all to Mia. Her jaw dropped at the first presentation. You did this? She asked. I smiled. What else would someone like me do? The project was approved, contracts signed, a launch date was set, and 3 days later, an email arrived. Management has decided to cancel the collaboration due to potential risks with brand alignment. Thank you for your efforts. Between the lines, it said, we found out you're trans, and we're not ready for that. Mia never called again, but I sent her a gift. Inside a cardboard box were printed copies of every design I had created for the campaign. Taped to the top was a handwritten note. From the shame you built in our school desk, I built this table. Would you like to sit at it now? No reply came, but that didn't matter, because now I wasn't chasing answers. I was chasing echoes. I'm no longer just an invisible artist. I am the voice people tried to silence. And now, they're forced to listen. And this voice is just getting started. The first thing I learned as a designer was this. Everything can be erased, but some marks stay. That first logo I created back at the shelter, that Zoom call where my father stared right into my eyes and still didn't recognize me. The courage Mia owed me, but never gave. Those weren't just memories, they were marks, and now it was time to use those marks to leave my own. I decided to take off the mask that kept me hidden. Selene Hartley would no longer just be a nickname, a signature. She would be a brand. I redesigned my website. At the very top of the homepage, I wrote, "My name is Selene, and I am the whisper for everyone who lost their voice." On Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, I started sharing short videos, behind-the-scenes processes, design tips, but at the end of every video, I left one message. To those who try to erase your identity, answer with your design. At first, only a few people liked them, then the comments started rolling in. I'm trans too. My family kicked me out. Because of you, I finally had the courage to share my art. Thank you. Your voice filled a hollow part of me. Those messages were as precious as the pillow I used in the shelter. And one day, a production company reached out to me. Would I like to be featured in a Netflix documentary? My first reaction was tears. My second, who am I to deserve this? But then, I looked in the mirror. The shadows under my eyes were deep. But my gaze was clear. I was a mark. And marks last longer than those who try to erase them. I appeared in the documentary. I told my story. My family still hadn't watched it. But the world was watching me now. After the release, everything exploded. Big brands reached out for consulting. Mentorship offers poured in. But I placed one condition under every contract. At least 20% of your team must be LGBTQ. Otherwise, I'm out. Some declined, but some accepted. And that's when I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. Selene wasn't just a name. She was a movement. 4 whole years had passed since I left the shelter. And then, My mother called me. When I saw her name flash on my phone screen, a little girl inside me stood up. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready, I answered. Her voice trembled with a strange cheerfulness, as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't screamed, "You're no daughter of mine," during our last fight. "My daughter," she said. I swallowed hard. That word, the one I'd longed to hear for years, now pierced me like a hook in the heart. "I saw you on TV," she continued. "I'm so proud of you. You've become so successful. Our prayers have always been with you." I said nothing, because words weren't enough, because words can't heal scars. And then, I told her, "Mom, that success is mine. Not the result of your prayers. You didn't call when I slept on the streets. You didn't care when I was starving, scared, and crying. None of you did. You only called when I appeared on screen, when I became visible, when I started to shine." There was silence on the other end. Then a shaky whisper. "Please forgive us. We just didn't know how to handle it." And in that moment, the little Selene inside me looked back at her mother, one last time, and quietly shut the door. I didn't know how to survive either, but I did. That night, I put my phone on silent, but I said something out loud. This victory is for everyone who lost their family but found their identity. The next day, I posted a video on social media. A soft piano melody played in the background. One sentence appeared on the screen. "Some succeed because they are loved. I succeeded because I was left behind." It went viral. Thousands of comments. Hundreds of thousands of hearts. But one comment shook me the most. "I wish I could be your mom." I stared at the screen and whispered, "Maybe it's time I stop chasing a mother and start loving myself." My name was no longer just a label. Selene Hartley had become a symbol, just like that young girl once trembling under a street lamp. But now, I walked under the lights, and those lights, they were shining for me. The Netflix documentary, the social media campaigns, the collaborative projects supporting the LGBTQ+ community. They were all pieces of a puzzle, but I was still trying to feel whole. Because I had learned something the hard way. Even when society starts to like you, it doesn't mean it's ready to claim you. One day, I was invited to speak at a panel. The topic: equality, access, and true inclusion. The hall was full. People clapped. Cameras turned toward me. But when I took the mic, my first sentence was silence. And then I began. "I didn't come here to collect applause. I came here to make you uncomfortable." The audience flinched. But then, they listened. And I told them how my own family rejected me, how I survived the shelter, how I turned my name into a brand, and most importantly, how that brand evolved into a nonprofit support fund. Yes, I now donate 40% of my income to provide scholarships for trans youth. Because I'm no longer just existing. I'm leaving a mark. After the panel, a young kid came up to me. He was trans too. His arms were shaking, but his eyes were bright. "Do you think I can do it too?" he asked. He held my hand, and I said, "You already are. You're here." And right then, I understood. My story wasn't an ending. It was a starting point for other lives. When I got home, I picked up a marker and wrote on my wall, "Some people get lost. I found myself."